Good morning. My name is Eleanor Hobbs, and I am a member of your parish board. Welcome, everyone, to First Church. Special welcome this morning to folks tuning in online for our very first live stream. We are a thriving community, nurtured by deep roots grounded in history, working for justice, and building community and connection here and now. We're so glad that you're here. December is a full time in the life of this church, with lots of meaningful ways to connect and to serve. If you'd like to help with Christmas Eve services, we need ushers and readers for all 4 of our services, which will be at 3, 5, 7, and 11 p.m. If you'd like to read or usher, reach out to Reverend Chris or Ian. Next Sunday has 2 exciting events. At 10:30, our senior choir will present Haydn's Lord Nelson Mass with orchestra and soloists. That will be at 10:30 a.m. This will be followed by our annual social action fair from 11:30 till 2:30. Please do come to both. And just a few days before that, on Friday, December 8th, Johnny Kringle and the Wonderland Band will be presenting a concert at 7:30 here in the parish hall with rousing music for folks of all ages. John Svetsky and Heather Kay and their wonderful band ring in the holiday season and raise money to help families associated with patients at Children's Hospital. Most importantly, today we are grateful to be celebrating the service of Janice Szynski to our church. After 9 years, she will be leaving her position as administrator of the church and beginning a new career as a dog trainer in Vermont. Janice has served the church for over 9 years, as I said, and we're grateful for her generous spirit and helping us keep our hand on the rudder during COVID for the church. We're committed to her for her creativity, commitment, and care for so many years, and we wish her and her beloved well in Vermont. There will be a very special coffee hour after church this morning with some delicious treats to celebrate Janice's service. Thank you, Janice. And for now, we invite you to take a deepening breath and on the exhale, let go of all the cares which you brought into this building with you and arrive at this beautiful place with this good company surrounded by abundant love. Come, let us worship together.
Please join me in saying, life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift. And we invite you to rise in body, rise in spirit, and join in our first hymn, O Come, Emmanuel, in the gray hymnal.
Good morning. So, once upon a time, there lived a king who owned too many things, because he had balls that bounced and toys that walked, rings of gold and a bird that talked, fancy shoes with leather soles, a crocodile, and fishing poles, 11 cows, not 12, but 11 cows that made good milk, an electric guitar, and a robe of silk, a family of rabbits that like to hop, a dragon egg, and soda pop, a train that whistled and horns that could toot, a hippopotamus, and a silver flute, a trampoline and a red canoe. Trust me, friends, I just named a few. But there was one thing he did not possess, the love for another locked deep inside his chest. So one morning when the king crawled out of bed, he decided to take a walk and help clear his head. And once he stepped outside of the kingdom's gate, his life would soon change. Some would call this fate. The king walked happily through new forests and new fields, not followed by his knights and all their swords and all their shields. Yes, alone he strolled at his own pace until he caught a glimpse of a maiden with the most beautiful. Nailed it. Amazed and stunned, without a word to say, the king ducked down behind a bale of hay. He saw where she lived. It was a simple house that she shared with a dog, a cat, and a... Nice. Her closet seemed empty, not one robe on a hook, but she had a few dresses, a fireplace, and an old fraying book. The king was surprised with the little he had seen, but he was determined to make this young woman his queen. Oh, ugh. That's not good. He went back to his kingdom, trust me, just wait until the end, and found a perfect gift to give the young maiden, but boy, was it hard to lift. And he set it outside her old wooden door, but had no idea what she would be in for. Because the following morning, when the young maiden awoke, she found a broken egg, but there was no yolk. But a fire-breathing dragon that torched down her tree stared her down, then exclaimed, "Mommy!" The king felt so bad. So the next morning when the young maiden awoke, she found a new fishing pole and a shiny cloak. There was one problem she had with the pole. She did not live by a river or even a water hole. The cloak was pretty, but it was more than it appeared. When she put it on, poof, the poor maiden disappeared. The king felt so embarrassed. So the next morning, when the young maiden awoke, she found a herd of cows. Surely this must be a joke. They trampled her garden and ruined her lawn. When she tried to move them, they just simply yawned. Now the king felt so bad. So the next morning, when the young maiden awoke, she went to go outside, but then her head was suddenly poked. She looked up to see what caused the dull pain. She saw a bird hovering overhead that then casually explained, "I'm sorry, my dear, that I poked your fragile head, but I was trying to get your attention. Can I sleep in your shed? Because it seems your house is getting quite full. I don't want to intrude. My master taught me to be polite, so the last thing I want to be is rude." The maiden asked, "Who is your master?" As the bird hovered above, the bird replied, "My master is a lonely man who's out to win your love." Pretty sketch. The next morning, when the king arrived to the maiden's door, he saw a handwritten letter he had not seen before. It read, "Dear secret admirer, thanks for the gifts. They do have their appeal, but could you maybe just write a letter instead and just tell me how you feel?" The king was surprised and moved by the words that he just read, that he hurried home to write down what he felt needed to be said. "Roses are red and violets are blue. I own so many things, but all I want is you." Bit kind of creepy. "So if you agree to be my bride, I will spread my wealth across the entire countryside, because I can picture us with no things in the way, sharing our love we have until our dying day." So the king folded his letter and returned to the house, where he was greeted by the whole household, including the dog, the cat, and the mouse. Nailed it. He read his letter as a proposal and dropped down to one knee. The young maiden said, "No, we just met. But how about a cup of tea?" And now children may follow me to class.
On this first Sunday, we continue our monthly practice of reciting covenant statements used at various times and places in our UU tradition. This month's covenant statement is especially historic. It is a modern paraphrase from the Cambridge Platform of 1648, which was an early form of constitution that established the pattern of congregational governance that UU churches continue to use for this day. Please join me in saying, "We pledge to walk together in the ways of truth and affection, as best we know them now or may learn them in the days to come, that we and our children may be fulfilled and that we may speak to the world in words of actions of peace and goodwill."
And we invite you to rise in body, rise in spirit, and join in our next hymn, number 1028, I want to say, in the teal hymnal, please. This is from the Chalice of Our Being by the Reverend Richard Gilbert. And it begins with the words of Dag Hammarskjöld. I looked up at Hans Peter because I know he knows how to say that better. Each morning, we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and give back. We share its abundance if we have any sense, reminding others as we remind ourselves of the contents of the chalice we don't deserve. Water from living streams fill it, if only we hold it out faithfully. We give it back, if we can, something of ourselves, some love, some beauty, some grace, some gift. We give back in gratitude, if we can, something like what is poured into the chalice of our being, for those who abide with us and will follow. Each morning, we hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, to give back. This is the time in our service where we invite forward an offering to help support the good work of the church and our partners in the wider world. This month, all month, we'll be sharing our offerings with the Grow Clinic at Boston Medical Center, a truly wonderful, incredible organization that we've had a very, very long, fruitful partnership with. We'll learn more about it if you don't know as the month continues, but for now we are deeply grateful for all you're about to give.
Taking stock of what I have and what I haven't, what do I find? The things I've got will keep me satisfied. Checking up on what I have and what I haven't, what do I find? A healthy balance on the credit side. Got no diamond, got no pearl, still I think I'm a lucky girl. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Got no mansion, got no yacht, still I'm happy with what I've got. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Sunshine gives me a lovely day. Moonlight gives me the Milky Way. Got no checkbooks, got no banks, still I'd like to express my thanks. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. And with the sun in the morning and the moon in the evening, I'm all right. Got no diamond, got no pearl, still I think I'm a lucky girl. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Got no mansion, got no yacht, still I'm happy with what I've got. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Sunshine gives me a lovely day.
see. So this is the time in our service where we invite folks to come forward and to share a joy or a sorrow, anything that's on your heart. This is one of the most precious things we do, holding one another like this, listening to one another like this. We ask that you use the microphone so folks can hear, that you remind us of who you are so people know, and that you focus your thoughts and be briefish. But if there's anything that you'd like to share, please come forward and do so.
Good morning. I'm Jim Hall. This candle is for my older sister, Carol. She fell this week, broke her hip. It's been replaced. She's in rehab, and I'm just praying for a fast and complete recovery. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Peter Whitmer, and this is for my good friend Shannon, known her for 20-some years, and she just discovered that her young adult son in his 20s has Hodgkin's, and I think praying for the best. I think there's hope, and I want your good thoughts for them.
Hi, this candle is for, in memory of my son Tim, who would have been 52 today or yesterday. He died 5 years ago, and the very neat thing about it is he had this huge number of friends that still correspond with each other, and it's very neat to see his life live on in the spirits of all those people.
I'm Nancy. I just wanted to mention that my mother died about a month ago, and it was not a peaceful death. She was agitated and distraught, and due to a history of complicated family dynamics, there was no family gathering, no funeral. So I hope and pray for peace for my mother, and I acknowledge that behind all the stoicism in the family, there's a lot of pain, and so I'm hoping that there will be peace and healing among my siblings as well.
Hi, I'm Eloise McGaw, and I'm not sure how to phrase this candle, but I light it because I'm very concerned about the anti-Semitism that's happening in our country and around the world. And I hope and pray that we can find ways to support our Jewish family.
This is a candle, candle of concern for Jeannie Reedy, who was my sister-in-law for 23 years and is, grandmother to my nieces, 2 children, and is very, very ill at this point. She's having a very bad reaction to chemo. She's on heart medication and diuretics and steroids, and we're very, very concerned. So she's down in Alabama, and I just have to push the love and hope as far as I can in that direction, and hope others can join me.
My name is Kathy Lind, and I lit a candle here just after October 7th with some real sadness and confusion about what was happening, and it's been 2 months now, and I'm just devastated and heartbroken and concerned about the loss and disregard of human lives on all sides, and I can't comprehend it. I don't see an end to it. I don't, but I certainly want to light a candle in hopes that some rational minds will find a way out.
And now we'll invite you into a deepening breath. Allow all that's been shared to settle into your mind and heart. And we'll hold silence together for a few moments.
Spirit of life and love, help us to be present with all that is our life, both our deepest sorrows and our greatest joys, so that we may engage fully in our own life and with our community. Grant us the space and wisdom to find moments of stillness as we continue the work to value what is most precious in our lives. And in that stillness, may there be space for grief, hope, healing, love, peace. May the light and the love within us embrace all who need it most. May it be so. Amen. Please rise in body and in spirit and join us in singing hymn number 317, We Are Not Our Own.
We Welcome, everyone, officially to the holiday season. Whew. I was shopping just the other day for some last-minute needs with my daughter, Aaliyah, at the grocery store, and she heard the bells of the Salvation Army person for the first time this year, inviting donations. Aaliyah told me that she loved that sound, that it meant that Christmas was coming. The bell ringing and the red cauldron is a fascinating fundraising tool. They make no pitch. The representative says nothing about the work of the Salvation Army, no explanation of their fundraising goals or their strategic plans for the coming year. There is no simple expression of what your donation will make possible, just the bell, just the ringing, the constant ringing for so many weeks. Inviting, over and over, inviting our generosity. And this is our theme for the winter, generosity. We will explore what it means to be generous, to give freely, to share wide open. We will explore the opposite, the clinging, the grasping, the closed off and fearful. And this Sunday especially, as we begin the season of Advent, this annual build-up towards our Christmas celebrations, we dig into the classic teaching of Jesus, the rich man and the camel and the eye of the needle. But before we dig into it, a little bit about Christianity, especially for those of you who are newer to the church, and this is your very first day. Slightly more Jesus today than most other days. It's always fascinating to me, folks we see at Christmas time who say, I love the church, but there's just so much Christianity. It's like, that's the one Sunday you're coming. Anyway. One of the things I cherish most about this Unitarian Universalist faith and the spiritual path of growth and deepening it invites us onto is that we honor the wisdom of all of our source traditions. We believe that if you listen with a generous ear, if you listen open and deep, that there is something to learn from all traditions. We honor many prophets, so many teachers who have pointed the way, including her. And Jesus is one of these many teachers. And this time of year, especially as we dive into this holiday gauntlet with the social action, holiday gift fair, and the major music service, and the multi-gen service coming with our children and youth choirs, and then our many Christmas Eve services, this time of year especially, it can be helpful to remind ourselves of some of the teachings of this wandering teacher who was just starting to build a little bit of a following, just starting to get a solid open rate on his newsletter emails. Just starting when he was put to death so many years ago. So many of his teachings challenge us and are relevant and fascinating to us today as they must have been so many years ago. So, this is Matthew 19. It says, Jesus said to his disciples, I tell you the truth, it is hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, I'll tell you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. At first, the meaning seems clear. Jesus often admonishes people to give away all they have, to serve the needy, to see the need in the world, and to give of themselves. And so there is a clear admonition to generosity here. And fascinatingly, there is a boisterous dialogue and mountains of biblical study into this passage. Because if some of you might know, the word for camel is very close to the word for rope in some translations. And so there is a passionate dialogue about whether Jesus actually said camel or rope. Getting a rope through a needle is also very difficult. Obviously, depending on the size of the rope and the size of the needle, but we can agree that would be a tricky undertaking. But the teaching is exactly the same. Be generous, give of yourself, give away what you have. But there are those who claim, no, he didn't even mean camel like that. There are those who claim there was a gate in Jerusalem called the Eye of the Needle, and it was a particularly small gate. And so it was tricky, especially for a rich person with a camel who was laden with many, many, many possessions. Tricky to get that big camel through that little gate. Mountains of biblical commentary on this gate. And as it turns out, no such gate in the archaeological record. But still, the exact same point. It matters that we are generous, that we give freely with an open heart. The very next verse says, when the disciples heard this, they were astonished and asked, but then who can be saved? And Jesus looked at them and said, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. The disciples ask, is it hopeless then for the rich? But Jesus says, no, not hopeless. All things are possible with a spiritual life, with a deepening and opening heart and mind. All things are possible, and this is good news. Partly because one of the tricky parts of this teaching, obviously, is who is rich. All of the wealthiest people that I have ever known in my life, each of them knows somebody wealthier than them. And certainly if you look at global wealth, all of us are rich compared to so many. But the beautiful thing about this teaching, it is universal. For me, true for everyone, no matter what your wealth. It's about greed and clinging and grasping. It's about generosity and sharing. Again, the reading we heard earlier, beginning with the words of Dag Hammarskjöld. Each morning, we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and give back. And these words of Reverend Richard Gilbert, his poem which follows. We give back, if we can, something of ourselves. Some love, some beauty, some grace, some gift. We give back in gratitude something like what was poured into our chalice of being for those who abide with us and will follow. Each morning, we hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, to give back. We live not to accumulate wealth, not to advance ourselves past one another. We live and work and strive so that we can help one another, so that the blessings and the gifts we have been given can be poured out into the world. And this is the fresh water. This is the life-giving, countercultural water, for we are told over and over that we do not have enough. We are told to work longer and harder hours, to strive for more money at the cost of all else. In Buddhism, there is a beautiful illustration of this teaching called the hungry ghost. And the hungry ghost is a being of endless greed and want with a huge hungry belly and a tiny, tiny, always hungry mouth. This is what so many of us choose to cultivate: greed and clinging and grasping. This need for more and more. Just look at my children when the toy catalog comes. You can see their mouth shrink and their belly get wider. But the opposite is true. There is abundance. There is water flowing from the stone. This is The Fountain by Denise Levertov. Don't say there is no water to solace the dryness at our hearts. I have seen the fountain springing up and out of the rock wall, and you drinking there. And I too, before your eyes, found footholds and climbed to drink the cool water. The woman of that place, shading her eyes, frowned as she watched, but not because she grudged the water, only because she was waiting to see we drank our fill and were refreshed. Don't say there is no water. The fountain is there among the scalloped green and gray stones. It is still there and always there, with its quiet song and strange power to spring in us, up and out through the rock. This is for me the great life-giving power of this place. There is abundance here, over and over, water flowing from the rock. In the world of hungry ghosts, trying to convince us that we do not have enough of anything, of time or treasure or beauty or wisdom, we come here together and pour ourselves out. We give of it all, our time and our treasure and our wisdom and our creativity. We refuse to close off or shut down. We refuse to lose our way or to lose hope, but instead come here together over and over again, seeking ever-deepening questions, seeking to serve this hurting world and the always changing challenges before us. And beautifully, not because Jesus said to, because that's the final fascinating thing about the teaching for me. Because whether it was a camel or a rope, the goal was to get into the kingdom of heaven. And for most of us, that's not necessarily the goal. I remember years ago, I was on a beach. I was sitting with a wonderful woman, a young woman who was facing what seemed like an impossible cancer diagnosis. Her percentage chance of beating cancer was under 10% by a lot. She was preparing to die before she was 25 years old. And she asks me there on that beach if I believed in heaven. And I took a deep breath. And with the waves rolling in, I told her that I had never wanted to more in my life, but that no, I didn't believe there was a place far off that we will go and live forever with people we love. She took a deep breath and said she didn't think so either. And so we spoke then of death and living all the days which remained, no matter how many they were. Miraculously, she did recover. Lauren and I went on to perform her wedding and dedicate her children. Most of us do not follow the spiritual path for salvation in some far-off place and time. Most of us hold the truth of realized eschatology, that we are creating the kingdom of heaven here and now, that we are sometimes creating the opposite here and now. And on some level, the liberating news is that just like that young woman on the beach, we are all moving towards our death, however far away. And whether a camel or a rope, we take none of it with us. And so the question is how we live these days, how we fill ourselves up, how we pour ourselves out. don't say. Don't say there is no water. It is here and always here, with its quiet song and strange power to spring in us, up and out the rock. Amen. I invite you to rise in body, rise in spirit, and join in our last hymn, number 226 in the gray hymnal, People Look East. Janice, would you like to come up to do the benediction? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. These we carry out into the world as our blessing, as our gift.
This was a surprise. I got you. That's why I love my boss. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Hold on to what is good, even if it is a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree which stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it is a long way from here. Hold on to my hand, even when I have gone away from you. Thank you.
Thank you.